Okay, I'm just going to show a couple of snippets here, but what you're going to see happen here is that there's two trucks parked right here, and you can see there is no fire in front of them. One of the trucks pulls forward and starts driving forward, and you'll see the fire starts and just makes its way back. Watch this. You'll see why I'm focused in on that here in just a second. So as you can see, the wind is going from left to right, and suddenly that whole area of the ground ignites. There you see the truck drove past a piece of fire. There you see it's ignited all the way along. Like the entire strip of ground right there combusts simultaneously. I'll leave the link in the description. This is the very first minute of the video where it starts out showing the strongest fire-nado I've ever seen. Watch all of these branches that go up in the air. It really looks like a regular tornado. Here we're going to watch some of the UAP dragons chasing this helicopter around. Like you see that one there on the upper right hand part of the screen right there. I'll play it in regular speed first and then see if you can spot the dragons. What we just watched was a video that I accidentally clicked on last night after watching this video by Latchkey Hustle titled UAPs, Fires, and Demolitions, which we'll check out some of here in a sec. But just as a refresher, actually I'm just going to let this one play first. Take it away, Mr. Latchkey. Hey folks,
welcome back to joining us. We have an interesting one for you today. If you're looking for aircraft, this is not the presentation for you. I think there's a grand total of two, one helicopter and one airplane. Maybe two airplanes, I can't recall. Anyway, the point is this is primarily about demolitions and fires. So check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments. And as I always say, please share it with other people you think might enjoy it or might have some insight. Thanks, and talk to you on the other side. So this is a whirlwind over a fire zone, causing a fire tornado, and this is something that seems to go right through it or in front of it without being affected. And I understand that some people say, well, it's not affected because it's, you know, closer to the camera than the flames or whatever. And maybe that's the case. But either way, this whole environment is whipping, and whatever that thing is not.
Watch as he's showing this UAP dragon flying through, something appears right here. And this is the point at which the dragon has moved just to the left of the fire whirl. When the dragon's over at that point, you'll see something appear right up here, and then a second later, The same thing appears right down here. Keep your eye open for that.
Through it or in front of it without being affected. And I understand that some people will say, well, it's not affected because it's, closer to the camera than the flames or whatever. And maybe that's the case. But either way, this whole environment is whipping, and whatever that thing is not. We're going to revisit this concept a couple times in this presentation about these fires and that environment and whether things are in front of the camera or not. But either way, I mean, this is, fascinating. And also, it looks very, very similar to the other things we capture. So maybe that's a coincidence. Who knows? Okay, so like I said, we're going to come back to some more fire scenarios. But for now, we're going to transition to a demolition. Check this out. I totally understand that some people are going to just say, well, that's just something, right in front of the camera. But like I've shown in prior presentations, when things are right in front of the camera, they tend to be gigantic. And, this does not appear that way. So, like I said in the intro, there are not a lot of aircraft in this presentation. This one is here because of this, tandem scenario, which you don't often see, and it's very interesting. I don't profess to be a bug expert. I'm not big on the insect world. I don't know a lot about it, but from my own personal experience, I tend not to see things working in couples like this. Now, these two presentations were put back to back for obvious reasons. There's another one where there's, seems to be like two, and it's very odd. And the other thing too is this thing is like a rotating drone with plumes coming off of it. So, which is cool, but it's easy to get distracted, you know. I mean, it's neat looking, but what these two things are shooting by it at that speed, I have no idea. And again, I'm not an insect expert, but I don't see any wings. I don't see anything here to justify or explain the manner of propulsion or stabilization. And just generally speaking, when I see insects and interact with them in my life, they tend to be singular, not dual. Well, unless they're mating, I have seen that. But even in that scenario, they're not synchronized the way these things are. Anyway, enough of that. Here's another demolition. And this is interesting because for some reason the camera catches this sort of echo where it's not to, but at times it looks like it. Kind of cool. It's funny too because even though we've already looked at one fire scenario, this was the capture that actually caused me to start thinking about fire because of this plume. Yeah. And so this is a logical transition point for me to go into this next capture, which, you know, this one is tough to explain. This is another whirlwind too. It's tougher to see because the column isn't quite as obvious, but it's larger. And this thing is just moving around seemingly unaffected by, the wind. So what this is, I have no idea, but it is clearly in the midst of a firestorm. And it's almost like it's just observing or monitoring. It's strange. And I think you can see, you know, the turning of the flames. I mean, it is definitely a fire tornado on a large scale. And this thing seems to just be largely unaffected by that. So the fact that it's in this environment makes it easy to focus on that. But we should also point out that it looks like nothing prosaic, right? It's changing shape It's not moving like anything prosaic. It's not a drone. It's not a bird. It's something else. And like I mentioned with the first capture that we started off with, I'm sure some people will say that's just some whatever, some artifact close to the camera. And maybe that is the case. But, you know, for my perspective, just looking at it, my eyes tell me that whatever that is, it's in that environment, in the mix, and being unaffected by that environment for whatever reason. All right, we're going to jump out of that frying pan back to a demolition. Check this out. So that's actually two right there. That's not one being an echo of its, future self or whatever. One comes out like of the middle of this structure, and then another comes from above it. These things are tough to explain, but what I can say is that it's so consistent. I mean, this look, this everything about this is just repetitive. All right, so this is our own capture, and I know it's not in keeping with the theme, but I'm just including it because this was like one of 15 or 16 that we got like this week. It's just nonstop, whatever it is. Focus on the bottom right here. This is not in a lot of frames, and um, it's also not aerodynamic in the way it's moving. So it's not aerodynamic, but it's definitely moving fast. But speaking of aerodynamics, look at this. You would think this thing's either going from right to left or left to right. That would be my guess because it looks like some sort of kind of wing structure. It's I know it's unclear, but that would be my guess. But watch this. This makes no sense to me. Zero. And the other weird part, and you'll see it in a minute, is this was actually very close to me, and I had no clue that it was there until I watched this video. And then also this thing gets in the mix somehow. And it just, the whole thing is strange and it was way too close to me. I mean, like that tree there is on my property and just, you'll see. I mean, look, this frame, but particularly the next one, this thing was in between me and my tree. Look at that. And I don't know how fast that thing is going, but if it hit me in the head, it would have been a problem. I'll tell you that. And then this thing comes like raining down from above like a crazy spider monkey. And in real time, this is what it looks like. You can't really see any of it. I mean, yeah, you see like specks of things, but that's only because you know what to look for. I mean, in real time, we're not seeing any of this. This is like going on in front of our faces without us knowing. So we're going to end this portion of the presentation with these three frames and look at them individually. And like I've said before with these things, if you know what these are, please chime in the comments and provide some taxonomy and an explanation, because we see them quite often and still have no idea what they are. All right, so there's four things of note with what we just watched. The first is look to the left of the buildings right at the shadow line, and you see this dark thing. It seems to come down and go into the buildings. And then if you look up at the top of the building, you see something perched up there, seemingly, and then a second later, it's gone right there. And the next thing you know, something's taking off like a rocket off the top of the building. And then lastly, back toward the left, you see something that looks sort of like a bird going up to the top left there. And we'll look at that more closely because it is not a bird. So now we're going to go over each of those four instances here. And this is the first one. I mean, I said it goes into the building. I don't know. It seems like it. And then this thing just disappears. And then a second or two later, like I said, like a rocket just shoots off the roof. And then there's this thing. Yeah, so here it is again. I don't know what the deal is with this, why it's not fluid right through the screen. It's like it's here and then it's there. It's hopping, which we've seen before. And then this thing, if it's a bird up there, then usually they move with wings, meaning like even if you see a pigeon hop off a curb, when they do it, their wings come out. So the fact that this just kind of dips down is a strange one to me. And like I mentioned with that first, instance, this thing is hopping through. There's nothing fluid about that. And I should probably also say at the distance this camera is, it's not an insect. It's way too big to be an insect. Yet there's also no wings. So, I mean, how is it even moving? And speaking of wings and propulsion, like I said, from a distance, that looks kind of like a bird, right? But then when you actually look at it, look at these frames. None of these look like a bird. And I mean, to me at least, maybe it does to you, like that looks like a chess piece. It does not look like a bird to me. I mean, if somebody showed me this picture as a still image and said, hey, look at this bird, I would say, okay, it's blurry, but I guess it's a bird if it's going from, left to right, maybe. But then you look at this and you're like, well, wait a minute, what? Where are the wings and why is it going southeast to northwest? I mean, what was happening? It's like someone threw a rock. Okay, so we've reached our winding down point. This is what we started with. And when I showed you this initially, I pointed out that some may say, it's not affected by the whirlwind because it's not close to it, it's closer to the camera. And I said, then, yeah, maybe. I don't think so, but that's possible, and I can understand the perspective. Then I shared this one with you, and I made the same point. And some might say, well, it's not getting sucked up in the whirlwind because it's nowhere near it. And again, I conceded. It's not what it looks like to me, but I can understand that perspective. But this final one, we have something that's going from left to right through the smoke, without question. And it is also a whirlwind and not getting affected by that environment. I admit it's difficult to see, particularly on the left side going to the right, but then I pause it here, you see it pop out, and then I pause it again on the further right, and you see it pop out again. It's going in and out of the smoke, and that is a whirlwind that becomes a water spout once it moves over the Colorado River. Here it is at real speed. Again, I understand it's hard to see, particularly on the left side, and it's fast, and but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, sharks are hard to see in the water too. Doesn't mean they're not there. So, from my perspective, having watched these captures with the fire, and seeing something like this where something is clearly moving through a whirlwind and being unaffected by the environment, it tells me that there's something amiss here. There's something not normal about it. Because if it were a bird, it probably wouldn't even be near it. And if it was an insect, it would just get swept up and turn into a little cyclone. But whatever these things are, and we looked at 3 separate instances of something either remaining stagnant like this one or passing through like the first one or the third one. Either way, it's 3 separate instances where there's something aerially anomalous going on because it's unaffected by an otherwise powerful whirlwind. All right, well, there you go. This was a different one. I feel like I say that a lot, but you know, and it's interesting too because even though living in Southern California, our life has a lot to do with fires, and living in the foothills in a fire zone, you'd think maybe I'd watched more footage of fires, but the reality is it didn't really occur to me until recently, and I spent the last week checking out some footage, and it's really, really fascinating. So hope you enjoyed this one, and like I always say, please feel free to comment, let us know what you think, and share it with other people you think might enjoy it, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
So this is kind of keeping with the theme where Latchkey Hustle just showed you a couple different pairs of dragons flying in tandem with one another. Here I'm going to show you a group of 3 or 4, I think there's 4 of them, flying together. Just the first few minutes of this video I did a month ago, titled Ego Death Paradigm Shift and Collective Initiation, and stick around till the end. I'm going to show you where Latchkey Hustle showed a super dragon to the rescue at the bridge collapse in Vietnam. Immediately after, a super dragon flies in and scoops the guy out of the water and saves his life. And when Latchkey Hustle said, you know, this plume of smoke from this demolition is what gave me the idea to look at fires for dragons, I might have had something to do with it too. Because I drug him over here, you know, like, mommy, look at me, that kind of naggy stuff. He's like, fine, I'll go see what he's trying to get me to look at. And I'm like, yeah, come look. And he came over and looked, and I dropped a whole bunch of plasma fire videos on him, and he even inquired, how did you come across this plasma fire phenomenon? And I explained it to him. He was kind of doing his interrogator thing. That's part of his profession, is like a psychological interrogator, being able to assess someone's validity of what they're saying and how truthful they're being, that kind of thing. Anyway, it happens to have his face on the thumbnail, and I put Latchkey Hustle right up there with MB3. I've said before, anyone who's not watching MB3's channel, please do not comment in my comment section. This is reserved for people who are keeping up with what's going on and want to be part of this process, of this paradigm shift, and for people who say, I don't like MB3's voice or his tone and his cadence and his rhythm of speech, well then you don't prioritize ideals over idols. He's not a good idol for me. You don't prioritize the principles over the personality. You don't like the principles of being educated or the substance of what MB3 is showing you over his style of presentation, the function of becoming educated, over the format that he puts it in. I've said that plenty of times about MB3. I put Latchkey Hustle right up there in the same category. If you're not subscribed to his channel and watching everything he puts out, you're not up to speed. You're behind the curve. And that's the whole point here, is helping to break you free, get you to lose your grip on reality. You must become disoriented in order that you can become reoriented with the new reality that has arrived. Mr. MB3 doesn't ask you to believe him. 99% of his content is just things that people send him from around the world. And as you can see, Latchkey Hustle here is taking his own video in his backyard and showing you things right up close that are all around us. So you gotta subscribe to his channel if you want to keep up with the transition of reality. This is a video produced by Mr. MB3 in 2019 featuring the Woodbury fire. There's a massive amount of UAP dragons swarming around, and he intentionally shows them to the viewer. 2 of them are hovering, stationary, in the sky, and he zooms in on one and then pans out from it, so it draws your attention to it, the dragon right in the middle, and then he pans out. He throws it into inverted mode so the viewer can see the dragon zipping around all over the place. And this points to that thing that I was talking about, how these dragons could be equipped with sonic frequencies that extinguish these fires. I'm going to let you watch the first 2 or 3 minutes of this, and then I'll slow it down, but you won't need to. If you've got an eye for the dragons, you'll see them all over.
1st, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 2019. Welcome to summer, guys. Today is officially the first day of summer in the Northern Hemisphere. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Woodbury fire burning 20 miles to the east of me. It's consumed now over 60,000 acres. Yesterday, I drove to the East Valley, or the Far East Valley, and I got a pretty good look at this wildfire burning up in the mountains. It's moving towards the north, towards Roosevelt Lake. They've got all kinds of advisories out for the area. No campfires. They're even telling people they can't smoke cigarettes outside. They would prefer that people smoke cigarettes inside. It's consumed now 66,000 acres. It's 42% contained. Here's a little video I did yesterday from about as close as I could get. I could have gotten a little bit closer, but I stopped because I had a pretty good view from this area right here. Here's the Woodbury fire from June 20th. Reporting from Southeast Phoenix. Looking at one of the biggest wildfires I think I've ever seen out here in this area. That's close. That's within 20 miles and getting closer. Burned over 50,000 acres. From what I understand, it's 41% contained right now. Nearly 900 firemen out there working on that. But there it is. It's visible from my house. It's visible when the wind is low. Earlier, just 30 minutes ago, it was real high up in the sky over there. Right over there. It was up in the air a little higher. You can see the wind has picked up a little bit, but at times you can see it really clear. It's been like that since June 8th. A little over 10 days. I'm going on 2 weeks now. But anyway, there's a look at the wildfire from Southeast Phoenix. That's the Woodbury fire, right over there. Thursday, June 20th, 5:30 p.m., 2019. There's a look at it yesterday, and as you...
Here I'm going to play it at 0.25%. You can see them zipping all over. There went 3 of them. A pack of 3 of them. There's a few going back the other direction. There's a few in the background hovering stationary. They're all over. And this is why he put it in inverted mode for you. Now it's not zooming in for me. Okay, here I'll just circle them if it'll let me do that. There's one here. There's one here. And there's one over here that are all stationary. And there's a bunch of them zipping in all different directions. I'll rewind it and pause it where a pack of 3 or 4 of them are cruising across the screen left to right. Link will be in the description of this video. Then he throws it in inverted mode. So you can see those things zipping around. He didn't throw it in inverted mode so you could see a smoke cloud. You can't even see that. There went the pack of 3 of them moving left to right. Once again, you can't even see the smoke cloud when it's in inverted mode. So he's trying to show you these, but he's not going to say it because it's not for everyone to know. And I'm getting to the same place where I'm not going to share everything I experience with everyone. There went another pack of 3 of them along the top, left to right. And this is at quarter speed. There, he zoomed all the way in on one, and then he zooms out from it. He's doing that to show you what there is to see. And that's not just in a still frame, hovering because it's a still frame. He shows you video of them hovering in place, like those that I cited. There's one right there. They got this new trick where every time you tap the screen, it throws it over to the advertisement. It's real dirty, low-down bullshit. There's one right there. As he zooms in, you can see it's staying there stationary. This is a still frame of the pack of 4 of them that are moving from left to right. Here they are in inverted mode. That's why he put it in inverted mode for you. And in this video, I've slowed it down to 0.25. I'll slow it down again to 0.25, which will make it down to 1/16 of normal speed. Here I'm gonna play it at 0.25%. You can see him zipping all over. There went 3 of them. A pack of 3 of them. Then he throws it in inverted mode. So you can see those things zipping around. He didn't throw it in inverted mode so you could see a smoke cloud. You can't even see there went the pack of 3 of them moving left to right. This is a video produced by Latchkey Hustle the other day. It's only a 2-minute video showing a bridge that collapsed. I think it's in Vietnam, and this happened just a few days ago, and he shows you what he was able to capture in the video.
On September 9th in Vietnam, there was weather that bridge, it collapsed. And I was watching the footage of it, and I thought I saw something, so I screen recorded it and scrubbed through it to confirm that I actually saw what I thought I saw, and I did. This is it. This thing came swooping in at a high rate of speed. Sometimes it's horizontal, sometimes it's vertical. And yeah, and then here, you see that one shot, and then it goes down past the street into the water. Here it is. Here it is a couple more times in real speed. Just focus on the left lamppost. And I feel confident when I say it went down into the water, because I feel like if it didn't, you would have seen it with the street as a backdrop to it. This is a very sad situation, and I have no idea what to make of the fact that this thing just arrived on scene like this. But this is a good example of what I was recently describing to you guys when I said that I watch things and then I see things, and then I just record it and go through it slowly, because this stuff seems to just jump off the screen to me. And obviously I wasn't looking for this. This isn't an aircraft or anything, but it was kind of hard to miss. So I wanted to share it with you.
I then go on to show you the comment section where people say that the guy in the truck that fell into the water said he doesn't know how he survived because he doesn't know how to swim. Now this is a video that I uploaded about a week ago. It's over an hour long, and I was hesitant to publish it and make it publicly available because it lost some visual quality. The visual resolution of a couple of the spots lost their visual quality, and you can't see it as well because I recorded it and then re-recorded it. So in this first part, I'll leave the links in the description. When I upload this, I'm going to go ahead and make it public. It's already uploaded, September 25th. I'm going to go ahead and name it something about losing your grip and just include the links in the description. So this first part where it shows you some dragons shows you these dragons circling around this plane. They lost some of the visual quality. And here where MB3 shows the stars cruising around, some of those are in packs, in pairs, in tandem, changing their speed and direction to catch up to the other moving stars, blinking on and off, fading in and out, proving they're not just satellites, they're not just reflecting the sunlight, they're intelligently controlled and they have their own light source. I'll include the links in the description when I upload this so that you can see the originals with the visual quality of the original and a timestamp on the link in the description so you can just click it and go straight to that spot if you don't have the time to watch the whole thing. And then I show some more Latchkey Hustle stuff. Again, if you're not watching him and the stuff he's putting out, you're missing out. You're getting left behind on the learning curve. And then I show this painting that I purchased of an owl on a plasma-fired tree. And I give a little bit of a speechification about losing your grip, about allowing yourself to become disoriented in order that you can become reoriented, and doing it incrementally through the exposure to these anomalies that completely redefine reality and physics and the world as we know it. Otherwise, you're going to get shocked when the big revelation comes and hits you like a ton of bricks. And that's the reason for the increased exposure experiences that we're all being given in order that we may be able to transition between worlds without going into shock.